And look who is here for our very first episode airing in Fox 5 San Diego. We first launched this show last year in Los Angeles. We began in San Francisco earlier this year, and now America's finest city. Throughout that entire process, there's been one guest that we've asked for over and over again to come. He is finally here, and we couldn't be more excited to welcome the 38th Governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Welcome to The Issue Is.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Well, you made one big mistake.
What's that?
You asked my people for me to come here. And that's why I never ended up. And this time you asked me, and I said, I'm here.
You're here, yes.
Yeah.
We'll exchange cell phones later.
Exactly.
We'll be texting back and forth. You know, if I were to try to do an intro of you, that could take a half hour. So everybody knows who you are. Let's start with what happened this week. A very exciting week. We both were up in Clovis, which is near Fresno, for a landmark moment in California, the 1 millionth solar roof installed. Back in 2006, you signed a bill that set this in motion. Now it's becoming a reality. What is that number, 1 million solar roofs? What does that moment mean to you?
Well, it's always great. You and I, we have talked about that when you have a goal and you have a big vision. And I always have big visions and big goals where people say, this will never happen, it's impossible to do and all that stuff. And I knew in 2006 when we worked with the legislature and when I signed the bill that it will happen. It will not happen during the time I'm in office, nor will it happen when anyone else will be in office that is there in Sacramento, but it will happen. And it did happen.
Right, and some 77,000 jobs that have also been created because of this. And one of the cool moments, there isn't a lot of bipartisanship that we see on display, but Jerry Brown came out to support you, to be there for that moment. Here's what he had to say.
Arnold Schwarzenegger had that vision, 1 million roofs. That was very bold, and without that boldness, we wouldn't be here today.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I think it's very cool. And, you know, I'm also one of the first ones always to say that this happened all because of him. Because you have to understand that when I moved to this country, I remember that Ronald Reagan was governor in the late 60s. And he created the Air Resources Board because there was so much smog here. And I thought that was a fantastic idea that someone really is trying to fight the smog. But then Jerry Brown came in and became governor after Reagan. And he started talking about solar and about wind and about renewable energy and green energy and all this stuff. And people thought that the guy is totally out of his mind, is some hippie. And so they called him, Governor Moonbeam or something like that. And so I think it all began there in the 70s. And he really talked about the subject so many times, not just in California, but nationwide. So when I became governor, I just stepped in and I said, okay, I'm going to go up the whole thing and I'm going to set even bigger goals.
And part of that concept of both parties working together is this new initiative you're working on called Climate Zero. This is something that John Kerry has helped to start with. But one thing that you talked about at the event in Clovis that I thought was really interesting was trying to reframe the debate about climate change. You talked about how sometimes you use the word climate change or you use the words like global warming and people don't get it. You think that there's a different word people should use.
Well, I think that the important thing is always, how do you sell something to the people and how do you communicate something to the people? And I always felt that I'm not an expert in this subject, may I remind you. But when I became governor, I said to myself, so many people always say, well, what is global warming? What does it really mean? Is it that we're getting warmer temperatures? Well, I don't mind it. I'm freezing my butt off and things like this. And I felt like that those were the wrong ways of communicating. And I felt that the bottom line, that what we're talking about is that we are creating smog and pollution because of fossil fuels. And fossil fuels and pollution kills. It kills people. We have 7 million people die every year because of pollution. So I said, why don't we talk about that? Because you can talk about in 20 years from now, the sea levels will rise. You can talk about the ice is melting in the North Pole and the glaciers are melting and all this stuff. And people say, so what? I mean, what do I care? I'm living in Nebraska. I mean, I don't deal with glacier. So it's kind of the wrong argument. We can mention those things. But I think what we should really mention is smog. Smog kills people, pollution kills people, and this is what we should get rid of.
And one of those people that's communicated this pretty effectively is Greta Thunberg, somebody that you have gotten to know. And I think of it as almost like the modern day twins, right? You got the action hero and this pint-sized girl who's now this week named Time's Person of the Year. What is it about her that has attracted you to her and to so many others? And what is the sort of the nature of your guys' relationship?
I think that her voice is being loud and clear, and I think that people really paid attention to it because it's a young girl, and that she's very feisty and she's strong and she has a clear vision. She communicates well, and she's a fantastic young lady, unbelievable and smart, and she educated herself. So this is what we want every kid to do. Don't sit around and complain. You have the power, and she has shown now how much power a kid has when they go out and do something about it.
She's had some pretty high-profile critics that have attacked her. What do you make of that?
Well, of course you will have critics with everything that you do. You know, let me tell you something. I made an announcement that I'm now more and more going vegan and eat less meat. Immediately someone said, "Oh, you're selling out to the left." What does this have to do with the left? What does this have to do with any party, with the Democrats or Republicans? How you eat. If you want to eat healthy, it has nothing to do, but they make it political. That's the job of politicians. That's the job of the other side. The fossil fuel companies will do everything they can to discredit her. That's why she's very careful to go and travel to Europe on a sailboat, so she is not caught on a private plane to fly over or something like that.
Okay, so we're going to have to leave it there for now. We're going to have more in a moment, but Governor, I'm trying to think of how to toss to break. If there's a phrase maybe to tell people that I'm going to return, is there something maybe is there something you could maybe help me out with on that?
Well, there's several things.
Yeah.
You can go, "Get to the chopper." Or you can go and say, "Hasta la vista, baby." Or you can go and say, "I'll be back."
How can anybody top that? That is very nice. More with the governor. We are back with the 38th governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Let's talk for a moment just about your time as governor. What do you see as your legacy that you're most proud of?
Well, I think the thing that I'm most proud of is of course, the environmental direction that we've really kind of put the environmental issue
On the map.
Well, we put it on steroids, so to speak.
Okay.
Right? I mean, we really pumped it up.
Yeah.
But what happens is the rest of the country looks at California and they see what we are doing and they get inspired and then they copy us. So that's what happens. So we want to go and be a perfect example for the rest of the nation and also for the world. Because remember one thing, California is kind of like a nation state. In a way, because we are the 5th largest economy in the world. And here's the great thing. We have proven that you can have the strictest environmental laws in the country and still be #1 economically in the country and being the 5th largest economy in the world, right behind Germany and the United States and China and Japan.
What would you say at your time as governor that maybe wasn't as successful that you've learned from, that maybe future leaders can learn from?
The bottom line is, you can never get everything done that you want to get done. Like, for instance, the fiscal responsibilities, that a state or a city should never spend more money than you take in. And so this is one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to go and get California a balanced budget. And so we did that. We finally reached it after 4 years in office. I remember in 2007, we had a balanced budget, and we didn't spend more money than we took in, and everything was standing fine. And then in 2008, the recession happened.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, we were short of $20 billion a year. I was kind of disappointed that I was left in the middle, they left office in the middle of the recession, and I could not really straighten out the financial mess. So that was one of the things I was disappointed in that I did not accomplish.
One place where bipartisanship is really important is the Schwarzenegger Institute at USC. I'm a Trojan, and we're very excited to have you at USC. I know your kids are also proud graduates of USC. You get people together to talk about a lot of important issues, and one of them you're most passionate about is this issue of gerrymandering and election reform, something you did a lot as California governor. There's a lot of viewers that may not quite understand that concept. So just real simply, how do you explain that issue and why it's so important?
Well, it is a system that has been in place for over 200 years now in America, which is called gerrymandering, where politicians every 10 years draw the district lines, and they fix it. They fix it in such a way and draw the district lines in such a way so they can protect their job. It's kind of a job security thing. And why is that important for them? Because then they don't have to really perform. They don't have to keep their promises. So this is why you have now a situation in America where, Congress maybe has approval rating of 18%, but 98% of them get re-elected.
Right.
So that is a fixed system. And so we kind of went in there. We lost many times. We went to the ballot and we had an initiative there, and it lost, and it lost, and it lost 5 times. But the 6th time it won. And then we followed up with the open primaries, and now we really have a much better system here. So this is really great progress, and we just have to keep going. Those things take a long time.
Right.
Again, what we talked about early on, it's a goal that everyone said is impossible to fix and impossible to accomplish, and I think that we can get there.
You've been so successful in so many fields, which is what makes you so interesting. The Terminator was back this year.
That's right, yeah.
Is that fun for you, acting again? Is it different for you acting after being governor, being back on a set? What does it feel like to be a part of that? Does some of that thought process come into that whole experience?
Well, I can tell you one thing, that I would not switch my life with anybody. Nobody. Because it is such a fascinating life and such an interesting life that one day you sit on a set and you have this unbelievable fight scene playing a robot, and then the next week you're sitting there at USC and you're teaching a class about political reform,
right.
And the next thing you do is a speech, a motivational speech somewhere in Russia. So it's wild, the kind of different things that I do, because of the different things that I'm involved with. And so it's really the most interesting life, and I love doing movies, but I love to also do all the other stuff and to kind of give back to the community. After school programs is another thing that has been for 25 years one of my passions. And we have created now so many after school programs, and I also got an initiative passed, Proposition 49 in California, that gives $500 million more money to after-school programs. So there's all kinds of great things going on. So I just want to give back to the community and use my star power to put the spotlight on issues that are very important.
All right, Governor, we're going to have to take a pause for a moment in the conversation. We'll have more with him in a moment. But first, we want to let you know about this. We've got a new website. It's called theissueisshow.com. You can also send us email comments, theissueis@foxtv.com. And all of our past shows, including an extended version of this interview, available in podcast form. Just search for The Issue Is wherever you stream. More Governor Schwarzenegger when we come back. We're back now with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I remember covering you on the campaign trail when you're running for re-election, and you talking to people about your diet when you were weightlifting. I remember you talking about the amount of eggs that you would eat in the morning. You had like 12 eggs, right, or something. And now your diet is so different. There's this great Netflix documentary which has gotten so much buzz that you helped to executive produce called The Game Changers. You talked about this a little bit. But sort of what are the big takeaways you want people to know about food and about the way that you've changed your diet?
Well, we are very fortunate that the body is very forgiving.
Yeah.
So, for years and years and years, you can eat meat and you can eat the eggs and you can do all this stuff. And when you're young, you get away with it. And I sure ate plenty of steaks and all this stuff. But then when you get older, all of a sudden you experience gout in your joints, and then you experience certain things that you feel like, meat is not that good for me. And then you start reading up on it and you start studying the subject, and you realize that maybe you should go more on plant-based kind of diets and eat more food that is plant-based. And so that's what I've done slowly. Not like I stopped eating meat. When I go to Austria and someone offers me a good Wiener Schnitzel, I have it. If I go when I go to Sun Valley, to my second home, we slap on sometimes a great steak, and we have that.
Yeah.
But I would say 70-80% of the time now, I do not eat meat and or dairy products and stuff like that. And it really has helped me. I mean, I feel much better. It is healthy. It still keeps you strong and energetic and all that stuff. And so I started getting involved more and more in that issue and letting people know, look, you don't have to eat steaks all the time in order to be strong and all this. And so it's just a much healthier way to go.
I did a story recently with Wolfgang Puck, and he made Wiener Schnitzel for me, and it was like the greatest thing I've ever had.
He's one of the greatest Wiener Schnitzel makers, yes.
Of all the things you've done, I imagine that what you must be most proud of is your work as a father. And it's got to be such an extraordinary time now for you, because all of your kids are successful in their own right, doing their own thing.
Right.
I mean, is this kind of an interesting period, watching your kids as adults and watching them prosper? I mean, what goes through your mind watching that?
First of all, I want to just say on top of all of that, that I'm really proud of my kids.
Yeah.
And I'm so lucky that Maria was such an extraordinary mother, because this is not something that you do by yourself. I was a lot of times gone on sets and the movie locations, and then when she had to pick up the slack, and she did an extraordinary job. So a lot of credit should go to her. The majority of the credit should go to her. That's number one. Number two, it is wild when you see the kids and the things that they argued with you over. Now they're coming back to me and they're saying, I'm so glad that you made me do that, that you made me eat, my breakfast, that you made me make my own bed, and that you made me scrub the showers, and that you made me turn off the lights, because I learned that and now I do it all the time. And then you see them actually the other day, just 2 days ago, I watched at night my son's movie. And it was just wild watching him. His acting was so extraordinary. He's so talented. And then all of a sudden there's this sex scene then all of a sudden.
Right.
And you see
what's that like for you?
That was absolutely wild, because I remember my wife called me the day before and she says, I just saw Patrick's movie. And it's like unbelievable. I'm sitting there, and he didn't tell me anything about it. And all of a sudden, I saw his naked butt there having a sex scene. And then I said, "Oh, I cannot wait to see that as I'm seeing the movie tomorrow."
Yeah.
And so I watched the movie. But that is really an experience and a half. I didn't tell you, to see his son. But I mean, I've been just proud, because he's right now doing another movie, and he's really working his way up. He's getting the starring roles, and I went on a set to visit him, and everyone came up to me and says, Arnold, we just want to tell you, you have the nicest son. He's so well behaved. He's coming in so well prepared all the time. He's so disciplined and all this stuff. So all these compliments I got. So it was wonderful to see that. And my daughters are doing fantastic. And then I have another son that is now in college, of course, in Michigan, at the University of Michigan, and he's studying psychology. And he is kind of like really into his studies. And he is so smart. I mean, it's just wild when he comes home and he throws around all these facts and figures that he's learning in school. And I'm looking at it and I said, wow, what a smart kid. This kid is much smarter than I am. I mean, it's like really great. So it's fantastic to watch that.
And happy birthday to your daughter, Catherine, this week
thank you
as
very
well.
much. And then I have one son, of course, Joseph, who is a fanatic in the gym. I mean, he goes to the gym all the time. And he works out like 2 hours every day and all this stuff. And he also wants to get into acting. And he is in the real estate right now. He's learning the real estate business. So, I mean, all of them, I'm just really proud of all of them.
There's that picture of Joseph where he looks just like you.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's got to be kind of wild for you to see.
It is wild, yes.
Yeah. All right, Governor, we're going to take one more commercial break. But when we come back, the Governor plays our favorite game, Personal Issues. Stay with us. More of The Issue Is right after this. Back now for our final segment with Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. All right, we do something on our show called Personal Issues, which is kind of fun to wrap things up. This is where we put 30 seconds on the clock. We get to know you, hopefully rapid fire answers, okay? You ready to go? Is this good?
No. I don't know if I can give us a 30-second answer.
Okay. Well, hopefully less than 30 seconds. So let's begin. Here we go. What's your favorite type of cigar?
Cohiba.
Favorite book?
I would say the one that had the most impact was Free to Choose from Milton Friedman.
Favorite athlete?
Muhammad Ali.
Favorite California restaurant?
There's nothing like eating in my home.
Favorite kind of car?
I don't have one.
Favorite actor other than yourself?
I would say I don't have one.
Patrick.
favorite actor. Okay. That's a
Patrick
good-
Schwarzenegger,
Patrick Schwarzenegger,
the
okay.
best actor other than
Okay.
yourself.
Yeah, let's drink to that.
There we go. Give you to that. Thank you so much for coming in. We
Absolutely.
really, really appreciate it. Thank you
My
for,
pleasure.
for everything
It's
that
great.
you've done for
You're
our
doing
state.
a great job.
Thank you very much.
I love your energy.
Thank you.
Yeah, really
Well,
terrific.
then let me end with this question. Favorite statewide political talk show?
US.
There we go. There's the endorsement.
Yeah, exactly.
Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, thank you so much for being here. Next week, the Democratic debate. We will be out there in the spin room talking about that. Thank you so much for watching The Issue Is. We'll see you next time. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you very much, Governor.